Hey, what's up? We're going to be talking about basically visual learning. I've talked about this in about the 7 different types of learning, and visual learning is one of them. And this could be really helpful if you have learning disabilities such as ADHD, dyslexia, like I do, and also any other kind of learning disabilities that do come along when it comes to actually learning in school and trying to learn these concepts. So let's go talk about that right after this intro right now. Welcome back, my Optimal Mind performers, my Optimal Mind leaders. Today we're going to be talking about visual learning, the importance about using visual learning when it comes to tactics, and as far as to kind of grasp new ways of learning versus just using the linguistic and logical way of learning things. These are some strategies that can be really helpful, especially if you really like movies or if you really like to watch stuff or draw things out. Chances are you're probably a visual learner. So let's talk about using these types of tactics. So the very first thing that you can actually do when it comes to visual learning is that you can actually draw out difficult concepts. So when you are doing a subject, for example, let's take science, for example, and you're trying to learn a difficult concept in science, whether that might be in chemistry, physics, but trying to draw out things. When you actually draw it versus just reading or listening, and you actually draw out the whole concept, and maybe even teaching it to somebody can be really, really beneficial when you're drawing it out on a board as though you were teaching it to somebody else. Now, it can be beneficial if you have somebody observing and also seeing if you're grasping the concept well. But if you can't find anybody, still teach to, an actual audience that might not be there, but teaching it. And this is a way to be able to use it more visually by drawing it out and using that concept. The second thing that I think that can be really helpful when you are a visual learner to be able to use is to implement this type of learning, type of intelligence that you do have, is using mind maps. So if you're not familiar with mind maps, the idea, and I use this in college, in medical school, when I learned about this concept of mind maps, because I'm a visual learner, and it's really made a huge difference for me. Because in class, I would try to take notes, word for word, and I could never get word for word, and then I'd lose half of what they were saying, and my notes were just all over the place. But then when I started using mind maps, my notes were far better, and I was able to grasp it. So the idea of a mind map is you're using actual visuals, pictures. You're drawing pictures. You're drawing characters, cartoons. But you start with a central idea. So whatever the topic, every professor or teacher will give you what the main topic. And if they don't, go ask them. Like, hey, or raise your hand. What's the main topic? And then they'll tell you, it's on whatever, volcanoes. Okay. So what you do is you draw a volcano, right? In the center, okay? And that's the center thing, and you say volcanoes right on there, and you draw a volcano. And then you branch out, and they talk about lava. Then you might draw some lava, and then maybe some key points of what she's talking about lava, okay? And you might put some visuals and pictures. And then you branch out the next concept. Soon you have like this thing that looks like a bunch of neurons that are connected into this center idea. And it's visual, so it's easy to remember that actual note that you drawed for when it comes to time to testing or quizzing. You can visualize it. And that's what made a huge difference for me. And the reason why it works is because it looks like a neuron. And neurons is how we actually memorize things. It's in our brain. Neurons connect. And when they're connecting, they're making memories. And that's how you do that with actually using mind maps. The third thing that I would say is trying to use visual boards. So what I mean by this is I had to rely on this a lot in medical school because there was so much information to have to gather. And in my room, I would have this huge board. And it used to be my whiteboard, but then I decided to put up a bunch of cardboard. I was a poor college student, so I couldn't afford a big cork board. But I'd have this big cardboard, and I'd have a bunch of my visual mind maps or other notes, and I would put them all up on this board, and so they could visualize, and then I would try to connect them. I would maybe, have some drawings that would draw to this concept, and try to make sense where it all connected together. So I was able to easily memorize and visualize the whole thing. That's what I mean by a visual board. Now, this might be using sticky notes, different colors, and you can put them on a board, and you're trying to memorize a series of words, maybe for learning a language. but you try to connect the dots of maybe, these words are very similar together, so let's group them together, and these words are, similar, group them together. I had to do the same thing with drugs and herb interaction. I had to kind of collect all the herbs that were kind of similar, all the drugs that were very similar and had the similar kind of mechanical properties. I would group them and have it all on a visual board. And then when it came to test day, I was able to visualize it. Be like, oh yeah, that one's connected to that one's connected to that, and that and such and such. That's why it's so important, and this is why it could be so huge. It made a big difference for me because I'm a big visual learner. If you suspect that you're a visual learner, definitely use these tactics. Use these tactics, and you will see that it'll make a huge difference for you, especially if you have a learning disability like I have, which is I have ADHD. If you have a learning disability of ADHD, dyslexia, or any other kind of learning disability, or you just struggle in school, start using these tactics and see if it makes a big difference for you next time you're studying for a quiz or a test. So that's it for today. If you are new here, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We talk every week, every Monday and Thursday at 11 o'clock on either ADHD health, either academic, tactics, work-life balance types of tactics, and relationship types of tactics, as well as any other kind of mental health issues when it comes to ADHD, depression, and anxiety. All on this channel. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, as well as hit the bell notification button, and then give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Until next time, this is Dr. LeGrand signing out. And remember, you have an optimal mind. Thanks. Bye.